only 3 of us that can answer. Just note it on the agenda, right? If we don't get an answer. All right.
Can she call him?
She can, yeah, she's online, but she's not. She called her and she's texted her. All right, I'll go ahead and start the January 25th Planning Commission meeting. I'll start with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Lerner,
You're on mute, Nancy.
Here.
thank you. Commissioner Nancy,
Here.
Commissioner Conce,
She apparently is logged on, but I don't see her. Oh, there's Randy.
Hi
Hey,
guys, how we doing?
all right,
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes,
all right,
Charlene,
here. All right, that's good. Now we have 4, at least 4 of us, and Gabby shows logged in, but we shouldn't show her here yet. All right, with that, then we'll go ahead and start the planning commission meeting, and the first thing that we do is open the floor for public comments for items that aren't on the agenda. Sometimes this brings up issues we need to know about in the future. Sometimes it gives feedback on something that's going on right now. So we go ahead and open it up, and for anybody who's not interested in speaking on something that's not on the agenda, go ahead, come on up, introduce yourself and.
Hey, hi, I'm Lauren Gruner and I'm a 25-year resident of Atherton. And I just wanted to come and say thank you very much for taking the time the other evening to actually look at the different options with the town of Atherton 2023 30 to 31 housing element. It's a very challenging issue. I know that people feel very charged about that around the town, but I really applaud you taking the time when you could have just said, hey, it's too complicated, it's late, we're at the end of the hour. I really appreciated the fact that you were willing to put together some wording and put it out there for the council to review. And I do hope the council adopts your changes. I think that for me, the most important thing is for us to find solutions that allow the residents of Atherton to keep their property values. For many people, their home is the largest asset that they own. And I think trying to target any individual area where it could potentially have people's property values fall substantially is not an overall good solution for the town. So the larger area of coming up with an overlay that covers a larger area, although you may have pushback from different residents, I do feel like that will more organically provide places where it makes sense to come up if you're going to do a multi-family structure or something. There are places that are going to percolate to the top rather than specifically 4 or 10 or however many people determining where those locations are. So I really want to applaud you for that. Again, I clearly think that overlay is a much better option rather than an upzone because it actually gives homeowners more choice rather than less, and it gives neighborhoods the opportunity to stay the way they are or develop if they want to and how they want to. I think also that I think that having the overlay extend to other parts of the areas rather than just in some of the smaller lots allows homeowners not to be cornered where the only way that they can sell their property is if they find 2 other neighbors who are willing to sell and a developer is willing to develop. At that point, you're really sort of stuck with your asset and you see it plummeting. So thank you for your insight. And I do think that having it go all the way down El Camino and down El Valparaiso is a nice balance. If there's lots of pushback there, I'd say extend the overlay to even greater area so that no one neighborhood is taking the burden of the entire issue. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'd like, one of the things that wasn't covered in the paper was the fact that when I started the meeting, I was saying that this was not something we woke up and said, hey, let's do this. It was forced upon us. And so it's definitely not a preference of mine to do anything other than what the community wants, but we're definitely stuck with a situation. If we don't, it gets a lot worse. So hopefully we can work through it. All right, anyone else to speak on that item not on the agenda? Then I'll close the public hearing on that item, and then we'll open up the public hearing on the items that we have before us. So we have two continuations from the last meeting that are now ready to be presented, and two.
I'm
new
sorry,
items.
I was just, I was on mute, but I wanted to say something.
Oh.
I just, I'm off mute. This is, I'm sorry.
All
This
right,
is-
good. I'll go ahead and open it. All right, let me open up the public hearing again
Okay.
and bring it back.
All
Okay,
right,
good.
I'm sorry, it's just that my mute is on.
All right.
I don't know if we're going to be talking about the overlay some more, so I just wanted to piggyback off what the last woman had said. I am live in right along El Camino on Nora Way, and just was brought to my attention a couple days ago with the letter that you sent out saying that all of the homes, all of the lots along El Camino were going to be in this overlay zone. And I just wanted to voice my opinion because I just think I should. I am completely opposed to my particular area being, or my particular street being able to have, 20 units per acre. There are too many, there's 3 streets that land on Nora Way, and there's already enough cars, and that would create, there's a few old houses that would be ripe for redevelopment. And I don't think it's the right idea to have 20 units per acre on my street. So I wanted to go down on record as saying I'm opposed to it. So that's
Great.
just what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll close the public hearing and agree with you. So I'll go ahead and bring up the items on the agenda tonight, the rest of the items on the agenda tonight. There's a continuation of the master plan for the updated Menlo College rather. That's item 4A or item A. So I'll go ahead and open that for presentation. And I'll explain how we do the sessions. All the sessions are the same. All the items are the same. We'll go ahead and open up the item, and it'll be an overview presented by staff. Then we'll go ahead and open up public comment. We'll start with the applicant or the representative, and then we'll bring it. Then we'll close the public hearing, public comments, and then bring it back to the commission for discussion and action as appropriate. So with that, then we'll start with item A, and we'll go ahead and overview on the master plan for Menlo College. All right.
I'm going to share my screen to just point to some resources that was part of the agenda.
Just real quick, at the end of this, I'll come back and we'll approve the minutes.
Okay.
As I skipped over that.
Yeah.
I flipped the page. Sorry. Go ahead.
Are you losing it there?
No, I just need live bodies around me to hit me every once in a while.
All right, next one, March, I'll be there.
All right, very good. All right, go ahead.
We're back to Menlo College annual report. I did see President of Menlo College present tonight in the audience virtually to speak about this update. As illustrated in the staff report and the attachment that is contained in the agenda. This Menlo College update supplements the 2003 master plan, which includes updates that were made in 2004 and 2010. Between 2004 and 2021, there was no new, 2021, there was no new construction of any new facilities. In 2020, the town approved a conditional use permit for a new residence hall designed to house up to 288 students. And this construction has been awarded a temporary certificate of occupancy that was issued in September of last year, 2022. Besides this, the annual update needs to contain certain basic land use circulation patterns and parking standards that are part of their annual update. And the report that is contained in the staff report packet has more details about every single aspect of this of the college's current status. The only change is that with the temporary certificate of occupancy with the newest residence hall in the fall of 2022, students can be housed on campus. Circulation and parking show that although during the pandemic and because of COVID, there was very less traffic because of the increase and back into in-person type of an education, there has been increase in vehicles. There are several factors that the report points out to for this increase, and it's available as part of this report. The college shares its campus with the school. There are parents dropping off their kids during the day. There are charging station on campus that is used by residents of Atherton, and the school also hosted 3 events and other related activities that caused the increase in the vehicle circulation. And at this point in this,
Sorry,
sorry.
go ahead.
At this point, there is no new proposal for any facilities, but there could be a different planning, separate processes in the future for the Carton Field development. And besides that, there have been 89 trees on the entire property that have been planted in the last 7 years. 79 of them are heritage trees, and the total inventory on the Menlo College campus is up to more than 300 trees. With this, I end my staff presentation. I'd like to invite Mr. Stephen, who's on the call, to say a few words if you would like.
And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public comment section.
I would think so, yes.
Yeah, I have to do that. for-
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
This ends my staff presentation, but
All
we
right,
do
very good.
have. the-
Any questions of staff? Then I'll go ahead and open up the public comment section. We'll start with Menlo College. I don't see, can you? We'll come after the applicant. The Menlo College will present, and then anyone who wants to speak on the item will speak. So I don't, oh, there you are, Stephen. You're on mute, or your mic's disconnected.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for the opportunity. I could probably go on for longer than you want me to. So I'll just do a few highlights. As was shared, for the period that we conducted the traffic study, there was a slight increase over pre-pandemic levels. We think that was an artifact. Our on-campus housing occupancy is up as a result of the opening of the new 288-bed building, which took traffic off the streets as more of our students were able to be on campus. We think that it will grow, period. Unfortunately, the building did not open at the start of the fall semester, so some of our students entered into leases for off-campus residences. We expect to see more students living on campus as the years unfold. We've also had conversations with the town about the possibility of a future building on campus for faculty and staff housing, which, if it materializes, would of course also take traffic off the nearby streets. That notion is also part of the housing element proposal that the town will go forward with, and I'm pleased that we have the opportunity to partner with the town, and I hope it becomes a reality. Just a few notes so that there's context for any consideration about Menlo College. First of all, we had a exceptionally strong fall semester, fully 50% increase in our new student enrollment, and a over 7% growth in overall enrollment. And in an absolute sense, I'm celebrating that still. In a relative sense to what's happening nationally in higher ed, I'm celebrating it even more. New student enrollment was down 1.5% nationally. Overall enrollment was down 1.1. We're serving an incredibly diverse population on our campus. We're diverse geographically. We have 45 countries represented here as of today, 20 different states. We're both a Hispanic serving institution and the federal designation of an ANAPISI, Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution. A little more of a plug there. Only 1% of all colleges and universities in this country have dual minority serving status by the federal government, and we're among them. we are having a good year at Menlo College with just a minor issue with a little bit of flooding that started the year. I could put that aside, I wish, but it's part of the fun of running a campus. Other than thanking everybody here for their support, I would be happy to answer any questions relating to the master plan. And if you want me to talk more about Menlo College, I am very pleased to do that, but I'm conscious of your agenda.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, I do. This is Randy.
Go ahead, Randy.
So thank you for the brief presentation. How has it gone with folks and the new Arriaga Hall? Did you say two? What did you say? How many beds? 228?
So 288, but we
Okay.
reduced it by one because to accommodate a student who needed an ADA compliant room. So 287, and it's 100% occupied. It hit the ground running. Our upper class students were reluctant to take advantage of the opportunity, and they are widely expressing regret. We moved freshmen in there,
Yep.
and they are loving it.
Good. I would love it. It's beautiful. I've walked it a couple times. I go out and walks on the site, and John was one of my mentors, just for full disclosure, and so you couldn't have had better guys between Chop and John on that. Congrats on that. They're
Thank you.
Yeah, John's no longer with us, but I'm sure he's looking down on you saying what an amazing building. So
Yeah.
congrats. My other question was on the housing element, knowing that you potentially, and I know Menlo, the Menlo School as well, Sacred Heart are all looking at potential residential as well. And I know there's some criteria for the residential relative to kitchens and all this stuff to really meet the housing element. How's that going? Is that a serious thing that you're going to come back to us with? Is it a wish list depending on a donor? What are you thinking?
It's the latter. It's a wish list depending upon the donor.
Yeah.
We have a space identified. It would be housing that would qualify for, as far as the state's concerned, for the additional units the town has to achieve. We have the land free and clear.
Yeah.
All we lack is the money for the bricks and mortar.
Great. Congrats.
And
It'll happen. It'll happen. Somebody will come along.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
And I do, and thank you for your comments about our supporters for the project. We were so fortunate to have John Arriaga's support from the last few years of his life. He contributed a lot to this campus, and of course that culminated in the building. All told, for Menlo College, one of the few silver linings in the pandemic was that we were able to raise over $27 million to fully fund the construction of that building all during the pandemic. It was really something to celebrate.
Good for you. Well, Chop's no slouch either.
Yeah, he's no slouch either.
He's one of my favorites. So yeah.
Mine too. I'd be saying that even if this meeting wasn't being recorded.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Eric. I just had to add those two.
All right, any other comments? The only thing I would add is, first of all, I'm glad you're staying on top of the traffic because I want to make sure that doesn't impact the neighborhood. The other thing is just to think about, I was looking at the map on your page 9 of your presentation. And as the site grows and fills out, and with the idea of more housing being on there, I'd hope that you just think through a way for making most of the traffic, if not all of it, come off of El Camino at your main gate. I think some of the spillover on the side that happens right now, first of all, it creates traffic issues coming onto El Camino and people try to turn left. Plus, if there are many more people living on the site, that also could be an issue where there's a nice access out with the traffic light on your main gate. So as you think through the floor plan of all that stuff, if you can figure out a way to get traffic looped around to the El Camino exit, that would be a big plus.
Yeah, I would celebrate that. Unfortunately, as you look at that map, there is just no route that connects to the largest parking lot on our campus, which is shown in the upper right-hand corner. That it would require demolishing a building in order to achieve that traffic pattern. The hope is we continue to expand on-campus housing capabilities so that we take more traffic off the road. That's the more realistic option for us. We surely direct all visitors and as much traffic as possible to the El Camino entrance. A footnote with respect to the possibility of a faculty staff housing, we would be unable to construct a new apartment building on our campus without the simultaneous construction of a parking facility to increase our parking capacity, because we're at full occupancy now. And our plan, should we be so fortunate as to receive funding for it, our plan is to construct a parking facility right in the parking lot that is only accessible off of the El Camino entrance, and it's very, very deliberate to address exactly the point you were raising, Eric, which is that we don't want to see more traffic on Alejandro. We want to see all the traffic come in off of El Camino.
All right, great.
I agree.
All right.
I actually have one more thing, Eric. So excuse me,
Sure.
unless somebody else did. So having had kids that went to Santa Clara, all three of ours did, knowing the dangers of El Camino, even down there, has that traffic light, pseudo light, helped on, because I even think of, as a parent of those kids walking across the street there, has that helped now in terms of visibility and getting your safety for your kids?
You mean the one at Alejandra?
Yes.
It's helped marginally, but it's I use it frequently myself, and never with a high level of confidence.
I don't think people understand how to use it when it's red
Exactly.
or flashing red. So I know Caltrans has all these different criteria in terms of distancing between signals. But to Eric's point, that might be worth thinking about down the road as a school is applying for a signal down there so that you can take that uncertainty out. Because every time I go by, and it's going like that, and we live down on Almondrell, so I go by numerous times a day. I would tell you, as a parent, I kind of look at it and always wonder what's going on with that too.
Yeah. So I was told, and I thought it was somebody from the city, but I don't remember. It was years ago. Was told that we didn't have the option. There was no path that would allow the state to install a traffic light there. It was a conversation that I engaged in with people from the town at the time that pedestrian light was installed, because I said at the time, why are we doing this? This is given the volume of traffic and the speed of the traffic on El Camino, we're not protecting our community with just that pedestrian crossing. And I was told it was a non-starter.
It's a distance thing. It's from Encinal, so it's that Caltrans doesn't like putting them too close together.
Right.
So I'm happy to talk to you down the road about that if that comes up, because we've done a lot of work in our development world and related to Caltrans. So there may be something as a school that you're able to pull a rabbit out of a hat on.
Right.
My favorite trick. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah. That'd be a lot safer there, because I see 2/3 of the cars stopping and the others going like, what's that? And they drive on through it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's dangerous.
Sorry.
All right, with that then, nothing else from the applicant, so we'll go ahead. You had a comment in the room.
I think my question is.
Go on, come up to the mic so people can hear you. And go ahead and reintroduce yourself on this
My
side.
name's Lauren Green. My question is this only regarding Menlo that we're having public comment right now? Or
Yes,
is it, okay, yeah, okay. The only thing I would say is that living close to El Camino, I have seen quite a few people get hit through the years. So I totally second what you're saying as far as trying to find a solution where we know that people are safe. Thanks.
thank you. All right, thank you. Anyone else on this item? All right,
Yeah, hand raised.
good. My screen's not big enough because I'm on my iPad, so go ahead. Who is it?
It's Stephanie with your hands raised. I'm
All
asking.
right,
you to-
Stephanie, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Go.
You called me at a very busy time, so I haven't submitted a letter yet, but I will be doing that.
All right, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Stephanie, and my parents live on Alejandra Avenue next to Menlo College,
Okay,
particularly right next to Wonderlic Field. So I'm listening to all this. I read Menlo's packet. I want Menlo to do well. The situation is they have so many aspirations and they just don't have the space to do what they want to do. The fact is Menlo is bursting at the seams. Let's start with the traffic analysis that I know you've just given a little bit of time to. They recorded over 100 cars an increase on both Alejandra entrances. And the 5 explanations that were offered were all pointing the finger at someone else. I heard a council member say, why not try to increase use at the El Camino entrance? And then I just heard another excuse. There doesn't seem to be a lot of problem solving for the problems that are happening. It's just pointing the finger and saying we can't fix it, yet they're asking for a 20% increase in enrollment. The robust athletic program is a problem for Menlo also. The fact is that Carton Field has quite a few restrictions on it. And when those restrictions were uncovered, the concentration of the robust program transferred to Wonderlic Field. Wonderlic Field had, there's supposed to be a 60-foot setback for the rear of Menlo College. Since Menlo College is on El Camino, it seems that the fence where my parents live is their rear. However, there is 0 setback. The benches for the soccer team are right up against their fence. That fence is about 20 feet from their kitchen door. And the use on the field is so loud and so exponentially increased that there just isn't room for any more athletes at Menlo. What happened over on Wonderlic Field once all the restrictions on Carton came to light is that the school and college turfed the field. 2 years later, they told the neighbors there was a problem with the turf and they got a building permit to replace the turf. However, they did a complete redesign. This redesign had all kinds of lines and setups for many people to use the field at the same time, and that's exactly what's happening. When the college uses it, starts with their soccer and all their practices first thing in the morning. Then the school uses it for PE classes, and after that, both the college and the school use it. There's incredibly dense use, and instead of focusing the noise away from the residences, which is the policy of the town, instead, they put the field that used to be in the middle. There was one soccer field drawn in the middle and always used that way. All of a sudden, it's like 10 feet from the fence with the benches for the team and the 10 feet between the field and the fence. So when I write a letter, I will send you visuals that show all of this and back up what I'm saying. But it's completely overutilized. And unless they can do something about the restrictions on Carton and use the fields in other ways, there just really isn't room for Menlo to do what they want. They have a PA system and music boom boxes stored right against the fence, and storage boxes right against the fence. So that means that when the PA system, which isn't supposed to be used but is, and the music boxes are used, they're used right against the fence. Everything happens right against the fence. When we've asked Menlo to move the activity, they won't do it. It doesn't make sense. There wasn't a code enforcement officer in the town for a long time, and now there's one listed, but I've emailed twice, telephoned twice, no response. I think it's a police officer who is also doubling as a code officer, but I'm not getting any phone calls back.
all right,
So
hold on one second. What song?
Stephanie, if you could wrap up your comments.
All right, well, okay, all right,
I'm done.
let me do
With-
that
with-
from now on. I'll do
with
that. I
these-
was letting her go on purpose. So,
With these-
go ahead.
I have just with these overwhelming and unsolved, Menlo wants to increase in their enrollment by 20%, and it just doesn't seem feasible. They don't have enough room.
Thank you, Stephanie. And for what it's worth, these are some of the concerns that we used to have all the time about the site. So it's important, Stephen, that you start addressing these, because one of the things is we're always talking about is how to be a good neighbor. And this is the issues like this are where that breaks down. All right, is there anybody else here to speak on this item?
I'll just make a note. I'd ask staff to make sure that the code enforcement officer gets back to Stephanie, please. Would
Yeah,
you, would you
thank
make a note of that?
Stephanie, you want to go ahead and get your information to one of our staff members? We'll go ahead and make sure there's a follow-up with the code enforcement person.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, very good. All right, but that, this is the kind of thing we got to get, make sure it gets addressed, Stephen. And there's no one else in the room that's asking to speak on this item. Is there anyone else online? I can't see everybody.
Well, I'll just ask Stephanie, if you have a letter, Stephanie, make sure you send it to us so it gets into the record.
Yes, I will definitely do that.
Good, thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and then close before I close the public session, Stephen, just want to make sure that, I've been on the commission for 10 years now. The first 4.5 or 5, every year there was some kind of a major meltdown on these presentations because of these types of issues. We got away from it for a while because the field was the Gordon Field was handled differently. And there was a lot more attention to parking in the area, things like that. But I want to make sure we're not drifting back to that era where it just wasn't fun to talk about this subject. So whatever you can do to get on top of that, I appreciate it.
I appreciate that, Eric, and maintaining relations with our neighbors is an ongoing priority and frankly an ongoing challenge. We make a number of accommodations despite what may have been just suggested, and work hard to ensure that we do follow the available use permits for the properties that we occupy. The growth that Stephanie referred to, we're not adding athletic teams, we're adding students, and we have housing on campus to do that. If we are violating any code with respect to our use of either Carton or Wunderlich, we will immediately take action. But to my knowledge, we are in complete compliance with our CUP.
Great.
All right. Just make sure that not only it's compliant, but it's actually actual impact is where we want it. All right. Okay. With that, then I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion and actions. There's no, I guess there is an action to approve the submission. Just to be clear, we don't actually approve their plan. We receive it and make sure that we understand that we've heard it. So it's a little bit different than some of the planning commission roles where we actually stop or start activity. This one, we just get an annual update to make sure we understand what's going on and try to anticipate problems such as Stephanie brought up. Any questions or comments? Randy, do you have something on this?
No, having done a ton of work for Sacred Heart, I know it's outreach and the schools have been there for years and years and years and years. And it's really hard when residential shows up later on and is adjacent to it. So I agree with you. And in this particular case, especially next to a field where they've got a lot of sports going on, I can imagine why this is a hot topic. So I absolutely understand where she's coming from.
All right. So I need a motion to approve the master plan as submitted.
I'll make the motion. I move that the planning commission accept the 2022 Menlo College master plan update as submitted.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lerner,
Yes.
Commissioner Narensec,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Kwanse,
Yeah, I don't see your box there anymore either.
Chair Lane.
Yes.
This motion passes.
I'm going to go back to the first item that I skipped over, which was the approval of minutes. Any comments? I read through them. They look good to me, and the format of them is perfect for what I would hope for in a minute. So good job, son.
I have no comments. I'm ready to make a motion if anyone else is.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I move to adopt the minutes of the last meeting.
And I'll second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Narensec,
Yes.
Commissioner Lerner,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Abstain. I wasn't there.
You were here in spirit.
I was there in spirit. I just can't tell you what happened in the meeting.
Commissioner Conce is absent. Chair Lane,
Yes.
this motion passes.
Right, very good. Item B is also a continuation as a tree protection zone exception request at 82 Linda Vista. So we'll go ahead and start with a staff overview and then we'll go with the applicant and then we'll open it up. Go ahead.
Give me a second when I open.
That's why I print them out because it's harder on the website than it used to be.
I agree with that, by the way.
Yeah, it's much harder to do it. I mentioned that to Anthony.
This is a TPZ exception to 2 redwood trees at 82 Linda Vista Avenue. The project proposed by the applicant is an ADU in their yard. The project actually, the location that you see on your screen shown in blue is the proposed square footage and the footprint of the proposed ADU. The tree number 2 shown in green on your screen, there's a 48-inch coast redwood tree, which is in the neighbor's lot. And the request is for a TPZ exception of up to 7.48x. And the tree shown in orange, tree number 4, is requesting the applicant is requesting a TPZ exception that goes up to 6.22x. The current status of this location already has a very large play structure and it has a sub base that's already existing. This project had not provided much information in the previous meeting, but now they have worked with the town arborist and gone back and forth multiple times to provide enough information. And the town arborist recommends approval. And she has, along with the applicant's arborist, made a list of conditions that they need to follow when they take on this proposed ADUs project. And the staff report contains the list of all the conditions that they need to follow as recommended by both the arborists. The applicant is on the call tonight to answer any questions. Staff worked with the applicant and also visited the site, and we support the town arborist recommendation for the TPZ approval. And this ends my staff report for the 82 Linda Vista TPZ exception for the tree exception for the 2 redwood trees.
Is Sally online? I can't see.
I did see Sally online and I'm.
Sally,
Yes,
town-
I'm online.
All right, Sally. Sally's our town arborist. Go ahead, Sally. Any update?
I don't have much to add. I was okay recommending this project because they did state they won't have to do any additional excavation. As well as these species are redwood, so they can handle construction a little bit better. So I didn't see any reason. 6.22 is pretty low, but because of the existing sub base that is there and they're not going to do any more excavation, I was fine with this.
All right, thank you. For the record, would you show that Commissioner Conce is here?
Yeah,
Yep.
sorry, Chair Lane.
All right.
Has some technical difficulties.
All right.
Apologize.
All right, then we'll go ahead and I'll open any questions on the item for the staff.
Not for me.
Sally, thanks for being online. I'll go ahead and open the public comment section. We'll go ahead and hear from the applicant or their representative. Who's here to speak on this?
Hi, nothing else to add to that. Any questions you have for me, I'm willing to answer, but nothing else. I'm with the architecture firm that's designing the ADU.
Okay, and go ahead and introduce yourself for the record, please.
Tommy Frost with Mayberry Workshop.
All right, thank you, Tommy. All right, I'll go ahead. Anyone else here to speak on this item? Anyone online? I'm gonna start bringing my computer here with my big screen so I can start seeing everybody.
Right, it's right behind you.
Doesn't show everybody. It only shows part of them. Actually, it shows three fewer than my iPad shows.
Yeah.
All right. All right. No one else to speak on this item. I'll go ahead and look for a motion.
I'll move. I'm happy to, unless there's discussion, I'm happy to move.
Go ahead.
I move the planning commission find the exception to the tree protection zone TPZ for 148-inch coast redwood, tree number 2, to 7.48 times, and 1 18-inch coast redwood, tree number 4, to 6.28 times the trunk diameter to allow for the construction of a new ADU at 82 Linda Vista Drive. This project would not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the general plan for the reasons outlined in the staff report, and the commission approves the TPZ exception subject to the conditions as listed in the draft TPZ exception certificate.
Is there a second?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Narensec,
Yes.
Commissioner Lerner,
yes,
Commissioner Conce,
Yes.
Chair Lane.
Yes.
This motion passes unanimously.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, item C is the tree protection zone exception at 140 Atherton Avenue. There's several correspondence that we've had come in on this. Were these put online too or not?
And I haven't been able to put them online. I need, city clerk will upload them as soon as this meeting is over.
All right, good. Then I'll go ahead and what we'll do is go ahead and with the staff overview, then I'll go ahead and read the comments that came to us online, so everybody in the room and online knows about them.
Okay.
And then I'll go ahead and open up the public comment section.
Okay.
With that, then let's go ahead and hear the staff overview.
Okay, this is item 4C for the public hearing, which is a request for 2 TPZ exceptions. And I'm going to share my screen so it makes it easy for all of us to review it. This is the location for this project is at 140 Atherton Avenue. The project is for an addition. The request is for a TPZ exception for 2 trees, tree number 190 and tree number 192. Tree number 190 is shown in green and tree number 192 is shown in red. As you can see, for the smaller tree that's shown in green, it is a 42-inch heritage redwood tree. The request for this smaller tree is at 7.0x, which was something that the town arborist has supported and recommended approval. However, we have, when we look at the tree number 192, the red one, this is a 49-inch heritage redwood tree. Staff is recommending that the planning commission denies, the request is for 6.0x TPZ, but town arborist recommends that 6.0 is too close and it may have damaging effects on the tree, and she supports 7.0x. And I would like to end my presentation and hand it over to the expert, Sally, to talk more about the reasoning as to why she supports that 7.0 instead of 6.0.
All right, Sally, go ahead. Sally, you might be on mute. There you are.
Can you hear me? Yeah, so this is for in addition to an existing home. So
Yes.
consider this new construction, because, where the addition is going was just part of the backyard. So there are 2 large redwoods along the driveway. They are pretty big, one's 49 and one's 42. So they do limit the buildable area. However, I typically don't approve anything 6 times or less for new construction. And I'll let the applicant speak on the foundation details, and then why they want it less than 7 times. I just didn't feel comfortable approving this less than 7 times.
Is there a danger to the tree?
They did find roots. There was nothing specific in the report about what size of roots, but in the pictures they submitted, there were a lot of roots that were found. So I don't have any specifics on that, but I'm hoping the applicant can talk about that.
All right, very good. Any questions of staff? Right here.
Time for me.
All right. Then I'm going to read the letters that I got on my email in order that they came to me. Dear Atherton City Planning Department, my husband Alan Fisher and I, who live at 147 Atherton Avenue, are writing on behalf of Joey Gu of 140 Atherton Avenue. In this letter, this is the right one for this, right? In this letter, the Gu family explained the detail their desire to lower the required distance from 7x to the diameter of their heritage tree to 6x between the heritage tree and their redesign. Our understanding is that this is that they have done the due diligence by involving an arborist. We support their proposal, admire them in their efforts to build an ADU on their property. Sincerely, Barbara Summer and Alan Fisher. Next one is Dear Atherton Planning Commission. I am Ping Li Fan at 165 Atherton Avenue, and I am writing to you in regard to a tree protection zone request of 140 Atherton Avenue. After reviewing the planned construction and the arborist report, I do not see any reason to reject the proposed plan. Please consider approving the exemption request. Best regards, Ping Li Fan. And then Atherton City Manager, my wife Mimi and I have met with Mrs. Joey Gu at their residence and discussed plans that she and her husband Lee Ann have for building an extension for their existing house. We have reviewed the requirements distancing a new building from the heritage tree on their property. We have no problems with the planned new building as outlined in their diagrams and feel the 6x distance from the heritage tree is adequate for the safety of the tree. Signed by George L. Paris, MD, and Mimi Paris. And then I have one more here that says, enclosed in my survey, respond to your October 1st mailing. I would ask that you please comment on the following proposal for an ADU on my Atherton property as my contribution to the demands of the state, California, of more housing units. My proposal that I ask for your consideration, comment, and relative in the current Atherton zoning laws would be as follows. Be the following. I cannot utilize backyard space in my current 40 Ashfield Road lot to separate 800 to 1,000 square feet. It says Ashfield feet do without ruining the current backyard function and visual effects.
That might.
That-
be
this
for
is- I think this letter
relates to the
next item. That this would be 40. This is
Yeah,
40 Ashfield.
this is
Okay,
not-
good. All right, good. Thank you. We'll read that one at another time. Then I was done reading anyway. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for anyone who wants to speak on this item in the room. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Eric Kane, the architect for this project.
Okay.
I have 2 additional plans. I don't expect this is a combined meeting, so I make 5 copies.
All right, good. So
Presented to
go ahead and give one to the staff so that they can speak to it also. We may or may not be able to utilize it.
Okay. Mainly is the second arborist review after Sally's comment. Then
We
also-
forwarded that to the.
Yeah,
commission.
we have that.
They
already.
have a copy of the.
okay, the
arborist-
second arborist.
The one
And-
that you emailed us yesterday, isn't it?
Right.
Yes. they have
That's
copies.
correct. Okay. And the other diagram I just highlighted, but the planner already indicated in color, so very clear to indicate it. This project, unfortunately, we probably move too fast at the planning review stage. The tree issue never been brought up, so we move on to the building permit. And the building permit already been approved, then these things pop out. So that's why we try to deal with it. Original building permit was a regular perimeter footing. Because we encountered the roots in the area, then we changed the foundation design to pier engraving. So the pier can be selected to the location, not interfere with the roots. And the grading can only go down like 6 inches. So will not jeopardize any major roots. That's why we make the changes, get the building department approved. We have to apply this process to get your approval for the 6 times distance. One of the reasons on the Sally's comment, which our arborists cannot oppose it, is the coverage. But I did do some calculations based on that square footage. You only the new construction only cover about 13-14% of the overall between the 6 and 7. So based on that percentage, I think our arborist doesn't think that will damage the tree. We can't really argue the scientific fact with additional cover will affect the trees, that's for sure. But this is a full-grown tree. Just like if it's a teenager, we damage something, maybe affect his future life, but this is a full-grown tree. So with this kind of a coverage, not physically damage the roots, may not jeopardize the tree that much. And also there's a driveway on that area already. So if you look at the diagram, which I like to show, really just a small area. That's why we try to convince you to approve this project, but even though this is my first time, try to argue, recommend, deny to get your approval, but I'll try my best, hopefully that you can understand our point of view to look at this tree in order to approve this plan. Of course, there is a way to modify the plan, but that's probably going to take another 3 to 4 months. That's not the reason, but this is something that we have to consider in order to finish this project. So my clients, they can move in to the next school year, September.
Why would it take 3 to 4 months?
Because we have to change the building permit and the building permit need to be revised and reviewed. The structure design need to be changed.
Okay.
So, but that's not a factor. I'm not using this factor
Right.
to try to convince you,
Right.
but that's what we're facing.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
My clients are here. They have a little point, some new findings they'd like to present.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're getting, for those commissioners, other commissioners, we are getting some additional information now that are include pictures.
First, I would like to thank you all to take the time to talk about my project. I did have some new findings later today, which I didn't have time to communicate with my third-party arborist as well as my neighbors and Sally. So I just hand over some pictures. So Sally was mentioning about the trenching that we did along the property wall. There was some, if you take a look at the second page, the first picture, Sally, I will send an email to you later because I just find this out later today. So we did see some roots, which next to the tree 192, as you can see at the second picture.
They are pretty small roots.
I find out it's, we actually, our third party arborist was assuming these roots were from the tree 192. But until later today, I think it was because the storms and a lot of rains, it washed out all the dirt. I just find out these roots are from a dead tree, which chopped off right on the trench, right next to the trench we did. So if you look at the lower picture, the lower part of the second page. So this is a huge tree has been cut off.
Oh, it's a trunk. It's a leftover trunk in the ground and that was
Yes,
buried
it's
in the
a
ground.
trunk. Yeah, and if you look at the other parts of the trench, there's basically no any roots because the tree is so big and the distance from the trench to the tree is almost 20 feet. So yeah, this is one of my point. And the first picture I show there's the distance from the wall and the tree is almost 20 feet. And there's another picture I took from one of our neighbor. So the house was built a couple years ago and their tree is not smaller than mine. I don't know the measurement, but it looks like the trees is very healthy. And I think the distance between the tree and the building is about 5 to 7 feet. And the tree is still looking great. So, and also my daughter, today is my daughter's birthday.
Happy
So
birthday.
she's waiting for me to
All right.
go home. So I really hope that the committee and everyone can support my application. For this design, we have went through all the process. It's been almost 2 years since I bought the property. My daughter goes to Sacred Heart. So we wanted to have a place that closer to her school.
All right.
So that's all.
And just go ahead and say your name into the speaker for the, into the microphone for the record, please.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think we caught it.
Oh,
Go ahead. So just introduce yourself for the record.
oh, yeah. My name is Ying Gu.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for these pictures too. They're very helpful.
Thank
Okay,
you.
okay.
Yeah, I just found this out today because I was like walk around all the time. I never find out there's a like huge trunk underneath the dirt next to the trench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else here to speak on that? Go ahead. Go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Yeah, my name is Michael Templeton. I live in 80 Palmer Lane. I live next to a sorcery structure that people have lived in. And I think there's a really interesting comment here, and that is, do you know, they have space in the backyard and they don't want to break up that space. You know, do you have clusters of buildings, or do you have, you know, one building? You know, when you enlarge one building, it's less of a visual impact on the neighbors, and perhaps also from people walking by and everything else, and traffic and everything else. It's less of an impact on the person living next door.
Right.
So I think that needs to be really considered when you do these things, because accessory structures can be very noisy how they're used, and they can be very disruptive visually. So anyway, it should be, that's a very valid point. And I think you should take that into consideration. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good point. All right. Anyone else here to speak on that item? Anyone online? You guys give me the heads up.
Nobody online, although there's a comment that's waiting for the next item.
Okay. All right, then I'll go ahead and close the public comments and bring it back to the commission for discussion action. Sally, unfortunately, you can't see these very well, but I can tell you that the second page does show a huge trunk that's buried in the trench, and any branch and any roots that are in the trench are very small. So it's not like there are big major tree roots they're exposed in the trench. So the one good thing that the rain did was expose what we needed to know. You know, the pad approach, Sally, does that has to significantly reduce risk, doesn't it?
The what approach? The foundation, you mean?
Yes.
Here in grade? Yeah, because then they can work around the roots that they find.
Yeah.
I just like, in the past, we prefer if applicants can find a better location on their property, especially for ADUs that don't impact trees as much. That's you know, if we're gonna allow TPZs of 6 times, really, there's a lot more options for these to go.
Yeah, Eric, can I just say something? We've spent years and years and years and years and years and years on trees.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm personally fine with tree 190 at 7. If Sally, who's the expert on this, says she's not comfortable with 6, I say we deny tree 192 at 6. I agree with her. If we've spent all this time trying to get these TPZ numbers to be correct, and there was another way to do this, the 3 to 4 months they take to design their whatever they want, it'll look beautiful. It'll respect that tree TPZ distance. And like I said, I'm comfortable approving and tree 190 at 7. I'm not comfortable at tree 192 at 6. I mean, why have an arborist if that's the case? If there's new information and they want to get Sally back out there, then they can get her back out there.
Yeah.
I agree entirely.
Okay.
Good point, Randy.
So here's where I am on it. In about a month, we're going to have a new ADU regulation. And that regulation is going to be anybody can walk in and put it within 4 feet of a fence, regardless of trees, parking, anything else. So that's going to be state mandated. And it's just pitifully bad planning. So when somebody walks in a month before that process comes before it and shows me pictures that make it look like there's not going to be an issue and that it's a tree that's mature, I'm inclined to go ahead with it, with the idea that I don't want to see this coming back 4 feet from the fence. And so for me, this is of all the, of one of the things we'll talk about later, because apparently we're going to go to a study session on we're going to have a study session rather than an action session on the ADU items at the request of the city manager. I'm inclined to go along with this one because it is the best case we're going to see on ADUs for some time. And when I would tour the site, I saw that the driveway's there already. It's being driven over, and there's things that are happening on it already. There are too many trees on both sides of the fences for what we would approve today. But I don't think that the street is going to have a problem with this combination of this foundation, this distance from the fence, and the fact that, as brought up, that it's less intrusive than a separate ADU. And so I would be for approving this based on that. Given the fact that the state's going to force us into bad planning around ADUs, this one is the best we're going to see in a while.
Yeah, but this isn't an ADU, right? This is an expansion of their home.
Yeah, but
It's both an ADU and an addition
it's
together.
it's an ADU and an extension.
Well, then why wouldn't they just wait until this is, I mean, I don't want to see it again, Eric, but I agree with you. I think 4 feet's 4 feet, and 48 inches versus what's being proposed here is a different scenario, but we're not there yet. We don't know what's going to get approved. And personally, if I'm the applicant, and I would pull it right now and just let it sit. I just don't, we got to go with what we've got right now today.
Well, right now, the state law requires 4 feet minimum, permits 4 feet, and it also permits a couple feet higher than we now allow. It'll allow it on top of garages. And it doesn't permit us to preclude windows overlooking people's pools next door to where the ADU is. The number of things that are demanded or dictated by the new state law make this the best version we're going to see. So go ahead, make the motion. I'll just tell you that I'm going to vote in favor of this proposal or against the fact that we're going to reject it. Which,
Chair Lane, if I
Yes.
may provide some comment.
Yeah.
Just for the commission's knowledge, the laws have already been in effect as of January 1st.
Yeah.
So just wanted to remind the commission of that.
Well, so then why are we going through this?
we're going through it because we have a code right now that doesn't conform. As of the 31st, the town council will give us a code that will conform, that will preclude other things from happening. It may also include, as we'll discuss, maybe incentives for better results for people's property, where if you give them an incentive not to put it within 4 feet, maybe they get something else. Maybe more. I've got some ideas around that we'll talk about in the next item. But the idea being that this is better than we're going to see. So let me do it this way then. I'm going to look at this item. And I'll do it this way. I'm going to pull it.
Why don't we just handle these as two different things, Eric? Just, I mean, we can take the motion, it's already set up as two. If you're saying you're comfortable with it, why don't you make the motion on the first, and then then we can all talk more about the second one. So at least they have the 7 times on the first one, which is what Sally's okay with.
Yeah, okay, well, you can go ahead, you go ahead and make that motion.
Okay. No, I don't need to. I mean, I just saying, I'm happy to, but
Okay,
move that the planning commission approve the TPZ tree protection zone exception for 142-inch heritage redwood tree number 190 to 7 times the tree's diameter to allow for the construction of addition alteration to an existing residence at 140 Atherton for the reasons outlined in the staff report, subject to the conditions as listed in the TPZ exception certificate.
Second, moved and seconded. Any comment on that?
No.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Chair Lane,
Yes.
Commissioner Conce,
Yes.
Commissioner Narensec,
Yes.
Commissioner Lerner.
Yes.
The first part of the motion for tree number 190 passes unanimously.
All right, then I'm going to move that the planning commission approve the tree protection zone exception for the 149-inch heritage tree number 192 to 6 times, but approve and I'm going to reword this a little bit, and also approve the approve the 6 times for subject to conditions listed, and I don't have the conditions listed at this point, right? Because they're not included.
So the second page of the staff report.
I know,
has
but they relate to denying it, not approving it.
Right, so it wouldn't be conditionally approved, it would be
All right,
just.
so approve, maybe depending on how the vote goes, it may not matter anyway. I'll go ahead and say with updated conditions list that will be listed in the TBZ.
I second that.
All right,
Can I ask a question before we vote?
Sure.
Which I have?
go ahead.
So Sally, I mean, if you don't mind, Eric, me asking. So
Go ahead.
Sally, does your view change with the 6X? And I hate doing this hypothetically, but does your view change at 6X? Knowing what's coming down the pike on the ADU 4 feet from the fence discussion?
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really know what's coming down the pipeline. I understand that ADUs right now can be 4 feet from the property line. But we're still going by the ordinance that we have today. So it doesn't change because I actually don't know what's gonna happen if there's gonna be no ordinance for ADUs.
Well, the 4 feet is effective as of January, right, Sally? It wasn't
Yes,
that way
yeah,
before.
I mean, this applicant could have placed an ADU 4 feet. But we would have still been here today if it was near a heritage tree. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future if we're going to approve ADUs at the building level or if ADUs still have to come to planning commission.
Right. Well, that's where I'm going with this too, because I agree in part with what Eric's saying, but on the other hand, I'm looking at it saying, what would the process be? We can put them within 4 feet of let's just assume we all agree on that. And that the code says that, but we still have to have this conversation at the planning commission relative to the tree.
Actually,
So we can't deny, it's my understanding that we can't deny an application for an ADU, but it's also my understanding at this point that you would still have to follow the tree ordinance.
actually, that's not the case, right, Sung? The requirement of the ADU does not allow consideration for parking or a heritage tree. It specifically highlights heritage tree.
Well, then why would we be here tonight?
That's what I'm
Perhaps-
asking. That's what I'm trying to understand too, Eric.
All right, Sung has an answer.
Perhaps the deputy city attorney can weigh in on this.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
So
Andres?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So right now we have to allow an ADU that is up to 800 feet somewhere on the site. Currently, we've got a proposal before us that has an 800 and some, or more than 800 square foot addition, including an ADU that is infringing on a heritage tree. That's why we're here tonight, to consider a TPZ exception on an ADU because of where it's placed on the site. Currently, state law requires us to approve an ADU somewhere on the site. Here, it looks like, and the applicant conceded as much, that there are other configurations of that ADU elsewhere on the site where it wouldn't infringe on these trees.
Right. So I guess my comment is, so is it carte blanche that if someone comes to us within 4 feet on up to 800 feet, within 4 feet of the fence, that per Eric's comment, a heritage tree could technically be removed based on where someone wants to put the ADU?
That depends on a whole number of factors of the lot configuration, the placement of those trees. So it's really hard to answer that question in the abstract.
Okay, so Eric, to me, it doesn't feel like it's as cut and dry as it sounded. Sounds to me like there's still a jump ball here. I guess the question to the applicant is, does 7 times the tree diameter work? Meaning, can they still put the addition that they want to their house / new ADU, whatever this thing is, can they do that at 7 times, and is that acceptable?
Well, the answer was that was held by the architect earlier. Yes, it's doable, but it takes 3 or 4 months and a new building permit to do that, which will extend the time out. So
And I don't have a problem. I mean, I was confused by the architect's comment. I assume that's who that was, saying
yeah,
he wasn't aware at the planning stage that this was the case. I
yeah.
can't imagine that staff misled them on something like this. They probably did an arborist report and probably looked around and said, here's what's there. So I'm not saying that anybody's the bad guy here. I'm just saying I'm surprised that an architect would stand up and say that they didn't understand it until they got to construction drawings.
Can I say
That
something?
makes no sense.
Yeah, Sally has something. Sally, go ahead.
I do want to clarify, they don't have a issued building permit for this. The reason why this came up is during the building permit phase, I do all the plan checks and I saw that the trees were there. So that's why they're here. So nothing, it's in review, but nothing has been approved.
Got
Okay,
it.
so they don't have they don't have our approval, but this would have been explained to them up front in terms of what this was, correct?
Well,
Sally?
planning doesn't planning sometimes catches this, but it's not their job to do that. So we either catch this at the building phase, or I talk to the applicant before then. We try to work this out before then, but at the building phase, this was caught. And so what they would do, if this is not approved tonight, they would have to do a revision or just submit an updated plan. They wouldn't have to go through the whole process. They would just need to update their plan.
Update their plan to the 7X?
Building
6X?
to the 7X.
Right. So that's I guess that's my question, Eric, is really more how much brain damage is it to go to 7X? Because it doesn't sound like, based on what the attorney just said, it is a slam dunk on a site, even though the 4 feet's there. It still sounds like they would have to go through a process. So it sounds to me like there's a risk factor to them if they choose to go ahead and put an ADU within 4 feet. It does not sound like that's a slam dunk.
Yeah. Sally, okay, I have a question then on Sally. Sally, if you went to the site and saw the roots that were here and there wasn't a factor, would that change your opinion on the 6 times?
No, it's the 6 times is the critical root zone. And for new construction, again, it's not good to go that close. I mean, also, I don't want a building that close. It does cause a lot of infrastructure damage. So in the future, even though this tree is mature, it's still going to get bigger. So
Charlene.
I don't think I don't think there's been a project in the past that I've approved at 6 times that didn't have
All right.
Damage to the tree.
All right, then you got the information we need, and there's a motion and a second. So I'm going to go ahead and call for the roll call on this one to approve, and then you come up with go ahead. I made the motion.
Chair Lane,
Yes.
Commissioner Conce,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
No.
Commissioner Narensec,
No.
Commissioner Lerner,
No.
Okay, great. So
the
got
motion
another
does
motion?
pass.
Got another motion. Randy, you ready for a motion or?
Well, I don't know that we can make one. I mean, the only way we could make it is if we said 7 times the tree's diameter. And then, we could, because basically now what we're going to have to do is nuke that second part, which is, my motion would be approve it at 7 times the tree's diameter, right?
Well, the motion we have in the packet is to deny the 7 by and approve the 7. That's the motion in the packet.
Right.
So-
Okay, I'm fine with that then. I'm sorry. Okay, then I'm fine making that. I also move that the planning commission deny the tree protection zone exception for 149-inch heritage redwood tree 192 to 6 times, but approve 7 times the tree diameter for the reasons outlined in staff report, subject to the conditions as listed in the draft TPC exception certificate. Sorry.
I second.
Moved and seconded. So one comment I'll make is I'm going to vote for this just so that the applicant can go ahead with the project, even though I don't think it's necessary. So if I vote against it, I'm voting against the applicant being able to do any of their move ahead forward. So I just want you to know that I'm voting for it, not in conflict with what I just did, but out of the interest in providing you whatever access you have to move ahead with your project and get your kids closer to school.
Fair.
So with that, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Narensec,
Yes.
Commissioner Lerner,
Yes.
Commissioner Conce,
Yes.
Chair Lane.
Yes. All
The second motion passes unanimously.
All right. Good luck with your project. And try to beat the 3-month timeline. All right, the next item is item D. Now, the city managers the town managers ask us to make this a study session rather than an actionable item because there are things going on with the town council and the staff about the ADU proposal that will potentially be changing. Do you have a letter from him to state this?
No, staff is just,
Go ahead.
excuse me, staff is just requesting that the commission hear this item as a listening/study session. And staff is hoping to hear comments and suggestions from the residents for the town to consider. No formal recommendation is requested at this time.
All right, good. We're going to start with staff before we go live. All right, so go ahead, then we won't be taking an action on this item. All of you online, we're going to hear staff information on this, and there's a lot of activity going on the ADU element because it's going to be blended into the housing development that's or the housing plan that's going to be acted on the 31st by the town council. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that in the housing element, there are some items that would relate to the ADU ordinance.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, if I could just add briefly why the city manager recommended we move this down the line. We anticipate as part of implementing the housing element, we're going to have to make some additional changes to the ADU ordinance. And so for a more orderly update to the ADU ordinance, we just feel it's best to kind of roll that all into one action and to better inform the ADU ordinance update in the future. We figured using tonight's agendized item on that ordinance as a study session would be a good opportunity to hear from the public and to hear from the commission on what you'd like to see in the ADU ordinance. But you will be seeing the ordinance again in a few months as we move to implementing changes throughout the code to operationalize the housing element.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, with that then, I got a staff overview for us.
Yes, one moment. In September of 2022, the governor signed into law AB 2221 and AB 2097 that amended government code sections 65585 and 65852.2, which impose new limits on local authority to regulate accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units in order to further ease local restrictions. So part of the amendments that we are recommending reflect the changes in the law. We're also proposing changes that address some of the comments that we received from HCD in the past And there's a few other clarifying amendments that you were proposing. Some of the key changes included no front yard setback for ADUs, increasing height allowances for ADUs. ADUs would be allowed in public facilities and school district PFS zoning, as there's already multifamily residences that are allowed with environmental review in that zone. Another key change would be garage conversion allowance for ADUs, utility impact fee limitations, and elimination of heritage tree protection for ADUs. Couple of recommendations that we're just wanting to address, just to provide some clarifications for the code, is to allow an internal connection from an attached ADU. We're not proposing that we allow an internal connection between a detached ADU and another detached accessory structure. And then we're also wanting to go through and provide more clarity defining what makes a kitchen for an ADU and a JADU.
So explain that the ADU and another accessory structure, that'd be like a storage room or building or a garage or what?
Yes. So if it was a detached ADU that's attached to like a 2-car garage or a 3-car garage,
All right.
that we wouldn't want necessarily an internal connection.
All right. All right, Randy, just so that you see in the staff report on the 3rd page, down to heritage trees, damage or removal of heritage tree cannot be a basis for denying an ADU JDU.
Okay.
That's why I was reacting to it. When I went through this report, I'm thinking, you know, if I would not have passed Planning Commissioner 101 with these rules in place when I started in planning commissions 17 years ago. So there's a number of things here that are just not right. And so we're talking about the possibility of building up ideas. I'll go ahead and come up with some ideas after I hear from the public and have their ideas. Are there anything else you wanted to add?
Yes, I just wanted to draw your attention to the comment letters that were provided via email. And then we also have a question in the chat.
All right, well, hold on. We'll wait till we get the public hearing. So I got one. Was it 2? Is it there's two? The one I started to read earlier, right? Okay, this is the one where this is the one from Donald Stansky, and it said. Inclusive by survey responded to October mailing, I would ask that you please comment on the following proposal at ADU. He provided a map with his, I assume it's his property. As my contribution to the bans of the state California for the housing units, my proposal that I ask for consideration comment relative to the current Atherton zoning laws be followed. I cannot utilize backyard space in my current 40 Ashfield Road lot to add to the separate 800 to 1,000 square foot ADU. I do without ruining the current backyard functioning and visual effects. What I would like is to take my current 2-car garage and undertake the following. Take the current 2-car garage, which is 10 feet, has 10 feet setbacks, the lot lines, and expand to a 3-car garage using the reduced setback that ADUs have, aka 4 feet, and then construct on top of the garage an ADU that would be a 2nd floor in the garage, but have all the functional and qualifying features of an ADU. I understand that the current Atherton zone does not allow that, what I propose, but the city of Atherton must adjust the historical past thinking to the new reality. If I can get 3-car garage and an ADU in the 2nd story in the garage, I would invest and make my contribution to the city's Atherton's need of 300 housing units, 300 plus housing units. Please consider my proposal above. If there is any realistic zoning potential for the above, I will have my architect be in touch to start the discussion process. Thanks for your consideration and deliberation. We want to go through this and preserve our beautiful city construct. The next, and that was from David Stansky, MD. And I don't, it doesn't have an address. And here is something from, looks like John Dasking. This was sent to Sung. I'm planning to attend the PC meeting, Planning Commission meeting tonight in regards to dues. I have read through the proposed changes to ordinance chapter 17.52 and came across a few typo coordination items I thought you want to be aware of before. And then he goes ahead and does a red line out on cubic feet, square feet, and California code section. And then it's basically editing the comments on the agenda between the main residence buildings. It's going to add clarity to some of the figures. So it's not just 30 feet. It's not 30 of shelf space, but 30 cubic feet, things like that. So you saw this too, right? So, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, so with that, then I'll go ahead and if any questions of staff, go ahead.
Yeah, just to be clear, what's being proposed, is it 2-story for ADUs?
What's being allowed by the state direction is a second story on top of a garage.
Yeah, so this is under 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th row on the table. 3rd column from the left. I just want clarification for
ADU height.
Yeah, well, it says 2-story limit for ADUs. Is that all ADUs or just for garages, or what is that?
That's for all, right?
There are limitations in the code, and I will point you to the correct code section.
Well, but it would allow two-story ADUs of any type, and then allow an ADU built above a garage as a second story. It would do both, right?
But that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
Right.
Work for us.
I also had a question, with the ADUs, isn't there a requirement legally that there is a kitchen, a bathroom, and a bedroom? So in the proposal that was submitted, does that include that on the 2nd floor?
Well, we don't have to, that letter I read in was not a proposal that we would act on right now. It goes on the record. And some staff, it has to deal with staff, and it goes through the regular planning process. So it was read as if we would give comment on it, but we're not in a position to give comment on it because it's not an item before us. So we'll go ahead and refer it to staff for answering the questions.
So if you go to page 4 of the track change version of the ADU revisions, and under height, you will see that for a detached ADU, it would remain at 16 feet on a lot with existing single family or multifamily dwelling. And then a maximum height of 18 feet is allowed for a detached accessory dwelling on a lot with an existing or proposed single family multifamily dwelling that is within 1/2 of 1 mile walking distance from major transit stop or high quality transit corridor. And then an additional 2 feet in height to accommodate roof pitch on the accessory dwelling unit that is aligned with the roof pitch of the primary dwelling. And then also a maximum height of 18 feet for a detached accessory dwelling unit on a lot with an existing or proposed multifamily, multi-story dwelling. And then a maximum height of 25 feet or the height of the primary dwelling, whichever is lower, for an accessory dwelling that's attached to the primary dwelling. And accessory dwelling units are limited to 2 stories.
So
what's the definition of attached? Is it a breezeway? What is that? How liberal is that?
Let me go to the definitions section of the code.
Yeah, these are all good questions we're getting from
If
everybody.
if I could just jump in briefly here, defining how liberal we want to be with that is exactly the kind of commentary we're looking for at this
Right.
point.
Right. That's kind of what I thought.
Well, but it's a technicality, right? I mean, it sounds like there was an architect in the room already tonight, and then maybe more, but attached, it means different things in different cities.
Well, but that's
So
what it means.
we don't care about every other city, just ours, our town.
Yeah,
So that
right.
was my question is what is that? And then I have a heritage tree comment too later to yours, Eric, because that was what I had read earlier was that limitations proposed for removal. And so I'm hoping that from a timing standpoint, there's a bunch of stuff here that doesn't tie our hands going forward, or Sally's or planning's. But anyway, pardon me.
No, but I agree. So what I think what we're looking for, Randy, is an idea about what we prefer the definition to be with a breezeway count or not. And would we want it physically attached without a breezeway? Those are the types of things that I think the commission, the town council would be looking for us for ideas on.
Yeah.
So that, and that, this is the time to do that. So why don't we wait until after we hear from the any public, the public comment before we dive into ideas from the commission?
Yeah, and I'd also like to know, like I said previously, what are the elements of an ADU? Is it a kitchen, a separate bedroom? That's in many jurisdictions, that's what it is. I'd like to know what it is under our Atherton code. I mean, a separate bathroom, separate, I mean, what is an ADU technically speaking under Atherton?
So I can read the definition of ADU.
That'd be very helpful.
Under 1752-030A, an accessory dwelling unit or an ADU means a building or a portion of a building designed for use and occupancy by people living independently of the occupants of the main residence building and containing a separate kitchen, bath, sleeping or living facilities. And just to kind of explain the attached versus detached, the term attached accessory dwelling unit means accessory dwelling units that it's structurally attached to the main residence, but which has independent direct access from the exterior. The term detached accessory dwelling unit means an accessory dwelling unit that is not structurally attached to the main residence.
Okay, like a pool house or something like that. Okay.
Well, the pool house wouldn't qualify unless they added a kitchen and it had a bathroom.
Yeah.
So not all pool houses have that. So, but we would make what's been suggested, that we make that permit process much faster on an existing pool house.
Yeah.
Added.
Yeah, and does a kitchen is it like a wet bar? Does it have to have appliances in it, or what is the story with that? Because some of us have pool houses with like a wet bar or something.
Yes, so that's one of the things that we wanted to get clarification and input from the Plan Commission and the public.
Okay, fair enough.
Let me go ahead and open up the public comment section, and we'll bring it back for the commission to have some fun with too. All right, so I'll go ahead and open up the public comment section. Yes, sir. You've been waiting since before the beginning of the meeting. Thank you. Go ahead and introduce yourself. So for the record.
I'm Donald Stansky and my wife, Catherine Woodall. We live in 40 Ashfield, half a block away.
Oh, there you go.
Watched this edifice rise for 3 years. My request was sent in as part of the survey that you had in October. It was sent in November, and we didn't hear anything back till yesterday when one of us came walking down to City Hall and saying, what happened to our inquiry?
Oh, wow.
So that's been 2.5 months of silence, which is concerning, because if people ask a reasonable question, it's not unreasonable to get an answer within a period of time.
Right. Where did you send it? Who did you send it to?
I sent it to the person indicated in the survey, and I emailed that person and I got no answer back. And fortunately, Mr. Kwan finally emailed back, and that's why we're here tonight.
All right, great. So,
but we're not here to, that's history. So my inquiry was the following, that I've got 1,300, a third of an acre. We got a 3,200 square foot house on it, and 450 square foot garage, 22 by 22. And the question was, could I put a second story on the garage and have a complete ADU in there, which included all of the kitchen, bathroom, and whatever? When I look around in our neighborhood, the house behind us is 2.5 stories and basically, is high. The increased height would not impact anything in terms of visibility given the location. And I would end up with a 3-car garage, which is useful and valuable, and end up with an ADU. And it would make a lot of economic sense to do that. But I realize we're treading on new area and it's all going to be new. It would mean that the setback would be 4 feet instead of 10 feet, which is what it is now. And we'd end up with a garage that's about 780 square feet and an ADU that could be 780 square feet with some sort of entrance. And you get about 3 birds with 1 stone. And that kind of creativity is what I hope the next steps of the council is going to go through with the planning commission to try to, and your staff here, to try to find ways to make it cost effective, efficient, and attractive for us to put the money in to help create 1 more unit towards the goal.
All right, thank you. Thank
Stop
you.
there.
All right, thank you for waiting and thank you for the input about the follow-up, and we'll go, we need to contact the person who's receiving the comments and find out how many other things aren't responded to also, if any.
Yes, I talked to Mr. Stansky,
Yeah.
and I guess the email was sent to Lisa, and so as soon as I found out about it, we
Okay.
called him right back. And,
Right.
I think we are at a good understanding in terms of what we're trying to do.
And part of this process will answer your question. We can't answer it tonight because because we're in the middle of defining that. But in the nuance that is interesting to think about, the original ADU conversation about above a garage was around an existing garage and adding an ADU to the top of it. We haven't dealt with the idea of expanding a garage and having that qualify. So that's a worthwhile topic to address for sure. All right, anyone else here to speak on the item? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. You've been a regular tonight. That's good. You're getting your money's worth.
That's right. So I'm Lauren Gruner, and like I said, I've lived in the town 25 years, and I've owned properties both in R1A and in R1B. So I'm pretty familiar with, and I work with people who are adding homes and ADUs and so on. So a couple of things. I read through the housing element, but I was looking for the document that you just brought up, and I couldn't find it. So I may come up with some questions here throughout this process, but one of the things historically, the town didn't allow us for separate utilities on guest homes and so on. I think that's really, really critical if you want people to rent out their properties, because it's really nice to know they can use as much water and electricity, but you're paying for it. It's not the main homeowner that's trying to figure out how to judge that rent. Second thing I was going to say is, I do appreciate the thing that you're going to get rid of the 30-day maximum year usage. That's really critical, because I think if you do that, then people are much more willing to let you know when they are using their ADUs.
Right.
And that, I'm hoping that through this, we can actually reach our numbers without necessarily having to push all these other zoning issues. Third point I'd like to say is that I think the idea, applaud the idea of being able to convert pool houses and other buildings on the property to ADUs if we can. I think that's really good. I do really want to understand what's required for a kitchen. I also think that it could be valuable to have an ADU it could be one big room with a kitchen, or it could be one big room and a bathroom. I don't know if you want to force a bedroom and a main room, because there are a lot of units in Atherton where they're pretty big spaces. And when you're just renting out a one-room place, it works for a lot of people, a lot of students and things. So it's kind of like having a studio rather than forcing a bedroom and the other. In the housing element, there was the 3.814, which is the inclusionary fee, where it's saying housing fee for all new single-family housing constructions and additions. I really don't like that. I don't like penalizing people for building or improving their property. I think that I feel like if we can work as a team to come up with things rather than putting additional fees and forcing things, I feel like it will be more embraced. I think people get overwhelmed with all these additional fees constantly being put on, whether it's green building or whatever. It's just let's try to
get to our points without penalizing people who are actually improving their property. I think the other thing that's really critical for me is a huge public awareness campaign. I feel like in Atherton, there are a lot of very, very smart people. People don't always agree with each other, but people are well educated. They're very smart. And I think if we did a big public awareness campaign that said, listen, we are really trying to meet our numbers, this 300 and whatever it is.
48.
And we need you, when your student comes back for 2 years after they graduate from college, we need you to charge rent. This is how you do it. This is what we need to classify our items. If you are, willing to rent your place out to a Menlo College student, great. If you're willing to rent your place out to a teacher who teaches in the community, we'd really like that. But I think if we educate the population, I think a lot of people would be willing to open up their homes and open up their guest houses.
I agree.
And I just think the other things that I sort of had questions out was, I know that I guess the junior ADU, I guess is there any other ways that we can take rooms within homes and expand them with a smaller kitchenette or something that would allow us to use that towards our numbers, but not necessarily have to build a whole new portion for a junior ADU. And I don't know 100% if everybody has to have a garage in Atherton. It makes sense in some of the larger lots. Maybe you always have a garage, but I feel like in some of the zoning of the RMB, there's a lot of places where you have a garage, you might expand out 10 feet off of the garage and then put an ADU across the top. So you still maintain a 1 or 2 car garage, but you have room for a stairway up to a second unit. So I think having flexibility there, the lots are very different when you're looking at the smaller lots versus the larger lots. And then if you could point out for us where the document is that you were just reading from. I looked on the website and I couldn't find that specific wording. So those are my main points. I would really, really like to see us get to this solution all working together in a way that's not impacting any particular group or any particular neighborhood negatively.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Yes, go ahead.
I would just encourage you to put that in writing, put it in the record. Yeah, so that there's something in writing that shows your proposals.
All right, and we'll also incorporate into the meeting minutes too, but it'd be worthwhile to get many of your ideas either need to be addressed as part of this process or need to be included. Go ahead, Sam.
Did you want the code section for the definition of an accessory dwelling unit or?
Yeah. The only comment I had to the lady was it may not be possible to set up separate utilities. Generally in Atherton, like you probably know, that the homeowner has got to set up the utilities for heat and cable. So I'm not sure that a second party or a third party could set up utilities on a homeowner's property. But to your point, yeah, if that could be, obviously, documented and so forth, how much utilities are being utilized by the ADU person. But perhaps you know something more than I do, but that might be an issue.
Request a comment. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the homeowner would be the one setting up those utilities, but
Okay.
but previously it used to be that as a homeowner, if I had a guest house, which I've had on properties, I could not have a separate utility for the guest house. So if somebody wanted to rent from me, the only way to do it is under my main bill. So you can set up a sub panel, you can set up a separate utility, but it could be under the homeowners, but it allows to have multiple utility hookups on a particular property. So it might be a sub off of it, but it doesn't force the homeowner to actually have to incorporate whatever they're charging their renter into the main group. So that allows you to have a separate water and.
Well,
electric bill.
so who's actually responsible for that? Because I haven't heard that from PG&E or the water company that you could actually subdivide the utilities. Are you sure about that?
You
Yeah.
can in other jurisdictions. I
Right.
mean, for example, if you have an apartment complex, you can have multiple, it's just within Atherton, you're not.
Yeah.
allowed to.
Right, yeah,
Um,
it would be possible, yeah, it's very, it's been precluded in Atherton previously to make it so that it wasn't easy to add a lot of housing units on property, so this would switch that. And it's not necessarily something you do, in a week, but it is something that is done regularly all through LA, by the way. My daughter's.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening in Atherton, but I think any renter could obviously go back to the owner and then just, pay their share of the utilities. So.
Yeah, the difference is whether or not we allow it as opposed to don't allow it. If we allow it and then they have to go through all the rigmarole, that's one thing. If we don't allow it, then it's something else in terms of what we may not need to control. Go ahead, son.
If
Got
I
it.
may clarify. So the red line edits are part of attachment 1 on the agenda right after the staff report. And under the new code, what we're proposing to say is that a new ADU with an existing main residence shall not be required to have separate utilities. However, a new ADU with a new house shall be required to have separate utilities.
Required as opposed to authorized and allowed. It's different.
In the first process, can a homeowner opt to bring a second utility in if it is an existing home and they want to add an ADU?
Yeah, I just,
Go ahead. So don't forget to come to the mic when you do that so that everybody.
yeah, I
can hear.
just,
But repeat her questions and go ahead.
I'm sorry, could you, I
Yeah,
didn't quite
sorry.
understand the
Yeah.
question.
So the question is,
New ADUs.
although the ordinance doesn't provide that the homeowner has to do it, are they allowed to?
Yeah.
On an existing unit?
So
yeah,
the question is, are they allowed to have separate utilities?
Yes, on an existing unit. It says that doesn't require them to,
Mhm.
but it doesn't say they're allowed to.
Let me look that up real quick. Hold on one second.
So the comment.
The
would
way
be-
we've got it phrased in the proposed draft, it would permit it, but it wouldn't be a requirement for an existing
Right,
structure.
Right, that's what we're looking at, yeah.
yeah.
Let's
So,
make sure, that it's
Yeah,
very clear.
yeah, I just think as a homeowner, even if you have a new ADU, you're technically responsible for the utilities on your property, whether you have a renter or not. It just seems kind of amiss because who pays for the defaulted utilities? Your renter or you? It's like, I just don't see PG&E and possibly the water company signing on to that. But,
Well-
that's just my opinion. Yes, maybe it's done in LA, but I just don't see it happening. Because most renters, that would be included in the rental agreement of an ATU. Because technically, if the water is turned off and the electricity is turned off, who pays the bill if the renter defaults on the payments?
An ADU, with an ADU, you become
Right.
a landlord. And so you would be subject to all the normal things that a landlord would be subject to. People who pay their rent, people that don't, and the process of that. So that's one of the things the state laws is trying to make sure that this happens, is that people have a chance to have a property that they're responsible for. And at a rate that is more favorable than it currently would be.
But
Anyone else?
the property's owned by the property owner. The ADU becomes a landlord?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's news to me as a lawyer. I haven't heard that theory before. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
Brandy,
That's
that'd be
quite-
what you, that'd be
It's
what.
quite
you-
unusual.
We've
Okay.
got- It's all set up to be a completely separate unit, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Who
So I
pays the
would-
property taxes? Does the ADU owner do it?
I don't, is it, that's, I think we're in the weeds on some of this stuff. I don't know. And I mean, that's.
Yeah.
City
Yeah,
attorney
that sounds-
might know, but
Yeah,
that's all stuff that I think is down the road. I think the question on our end is how do we deal with it? How do we put it together relative to
Mhm.
to neighbors and public comment and all that stuff.
All right.
Okay, but the
I
property.
think before we
Speaking of-
move on,
Speaking of
I think
public
before we
comment,
move on from this point of utility connections, could we get some clarity on where the commission's at on whether or not existing structure ADU additions should be required to have separate utility connections, should be allowed to have separate utility connections?
I would say allowed.
I agree.
And Perry's agreeing with that.
Yeah,
I don't think it should be required because people want to have, what I'm looking for is for people to be able to control their own property on this issue. So if somebody wants to set it up like I'm a landlord and I'm doing it this way, fine. If I want to set it up as a chargeback to my daughter for all the years that she spent all my money.
Okay. Okay,
Oh,
but-
did I say that out loud?
Okay, but I just
I
want
could do that.
to, if I could just state something, how is it their property? They're not on the mortgage. This is not their property. They are an extension of the owner's right to have an ADU. How are they the owner of the property?
Well, I think.
Maybe I'm missing
They're not the
missing
owner.
something
They're not
here.
I'm not talking about the owner of the, saying the owner of the property mean the holder of the deed of the land that the ADU is on. I want to give them the flexibility to either set up a separate separate power and utilities link or not, depending on what they want.
Okay,
But
but
let's-
they're not,
but-
they're
All
they're
right,
not,
all right. I want to continue with the public hearing, Gavin. All
Okay,
right, so we can come back to this when we bring.
not
when we
on the
bring it back.
deed, though. If I can put that on the record, they're not on the deed. They're not the mortgage owner.
I got
So,
it.
All right, I got it. Okay, maybe I'm missing
right.
something. Sorry about that.
All right, so anyone else in the room that has, there's other people that want to speak. So let's go ahead and I want to go ahead and come on up and then you're next. Okay. I didn't know he was coming this way. I thought he was leaving. Come on up.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, you're right. You're okay. I didn't know you were coming up. I thought you were walking out. Go ahead.
I'm Gregory Conlon at 43 Virginia,
Okay,
and I'm in the process of converting my pool house into an ADU,
yes.
and I'm doing that full time the last 2 weeks. And I just have some observations that
Good.
may or may not be relevant. The first one is, you know, if you have a pool house with a heated gas, you know, for the swimming pool. So you got gas out there. So the tendency is that you'd want to have a gas appliances in the pool house so that to minimize your cost. But on the other hand, if you open the paper every day and it says that that the district is going to require electricity,
Mhm.
that it almost raises the question, you know, it might not happen for 2 or 3 years, but if you're gonna do it, now would be the time to put in electricity if you're gonna to do it. And the issue is, in my situation, is that, you know, if you could find a electric burner with 110 amps rather than 220 or 240, whatever the numbers are, you'd save $10,000 to $20,000.
Mhm.
And I think if the city wants to encourage people to do ADUs, when you've got a barrier of $10,000 to $20,000
Right.
to install 240 amps, then you're really throwing and you want 348 of them.
Mhm.
That I think it would be wiser to allow an electric burner with 110 amps. So that you'd have electricity
Mhm.
that would meet the new rules whenever they go into effect. And I don't think it's a question of what the nuances of what is required in the new world for an electric appliance would be a question also. But I'm just saying that was a barrier that I thought that the city could decide to deal differently and get more people to put in electric ADUs without going with the 220, 240. gave them $10,000 to $20,000 each.
That's a
And,
good point.
which I felt very uncomfortable with that kind of cost, that it would really cost that much, but the electricians that I'm dealing with are convinced that it would. So I accepted it, and I stay with gas as a result.
Mhm.
So, and that's, and the other issue from a cost standpoint is the fees. I still don't understand, because I know at the beginning, the city council was very adamant that the fees were going to be waived. And then all of a sudden, that's a whole commitment has sort of disappeared. And I'm not sure that I'm so busy applying the rules. I didn't read the detail of what's in the meeting tonight, and I apologize for that. But I don't know if the new rules require the fees or whether they waive them, because I haven't had a chance to read them.
There's been nothing accepted yet. That's we're in the process of trying to figure out. So we'll definitely put that.
But there was no question at the beginning they were going to waive them.
Yeah, but I think that was at the discussion stage, but now nothing's been written down yet in terms of what the final regulations will be. So I think that'll be something that the town council will be addressing as part of its process, right? As far as you know? Or
As far as I know, that the town council will be reviewing the housing element on the 31st. And if there's anything specific about ADU fee waivers, it'll be addressed at that meeting.
Say that again.
The town council will be reviewing the housing element on
If
the
there's
31st.
anything that's part of this regulation as part of the housing element, which are ADUs, the ADU will be part of that. In the meeting of the 31st, that'll be discussed and either included or not by the town council on the 31st of this month, the 31st of, yeah.
All right, well, I guess just to minimize the cost, I would certainly support waiving those fees if you really want to get people to use the ADUs to satisfy your housing element.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are good points. Thank you. You're up.
Just a couple comments.
And go ahead.
You know,
Go ahead. And
my name is
read it.
Michael Templeton.
Go ahead and read.
I
read
live at
it.
80 Palmer Lane.
Yeah.
I live next to a unit that has an accessory dwelling unit. It was actually a pool house and converted, and I can tell you some of the experiences that I have and that I'd like to see. And I've also thought about putting in an ADU, and I can tell you a little bit about my experiences and what maybe you might want to change or think about. Also, I think there's an SB9, the guy who's got the lot next to me wants to do an SB9 conversion. So I've got to think about that and think about all the issues there. Okay, one is, you know, people's privacy is really important, and that's what we need to respect. Visual space privacy, as well as visual space privacy is good, but also the noise of the tenants. Okay, sometimes houses are not necessarily like lived in. For example, that it was a pool house, right? And so the people who lived in the pool house didn't live in the house; they lived in the pool. Okay, yeah. And you can imagine the cacophony that you get from a bunch of people partying and living in that pool house. Okay, there's a lot of noise. And I had to, that was the most disturbing thing about it, was really the noise of the people there. There's also the issue of parking. Oftentimes the driveway would be empty over there, but their cars would be in front of my house, okay? And it's the cars slamming at 11 o'clock at night or something else, or the music going on. And so I think there needs to be an understanding that if you have accessory dwelling units, that maybe the noise ordinances for those ought to be a little different than they are for the main residence. Okay, noise till 11 o'clock at night. Also, it was clear to me that often the Atherton Police Department doesn't know what the noise code was. They were always saying, for example, the noise ordinance is like 50 dBs at a certain time, but there's an exception of 5 dBs for rhythmic noise. And they would come down there and they wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't include the 5 dBs. And also the noise would be peaking over that thing, and they wouldn't say, well, it doesn't have to be continuously over that, or, so there's a lot of issues there. But I think that you could solve a lot of issues with privacy by understanding that it's also how those dwellings are used. Also, as I said, the one issue was, it's a fairly large structure, but there was a big cement scape out front. And so that causes causes a lot of noise to be projected onto my property, okay? And so that's not a good thing. And as a pool, hardscape cement like that, and like I said, as it's being used, people out there walking around the pool, talking on their cell phone, they're in your backyard, they're living basically in your backyard. Okay. So, you know, so somehow, I don't know how you're going to incorporate those things, but they need to be taken into account either for reduced noise or something else. The second issue is, you know, certainly I've thought about, you know, the issue of how much footprint versus how much visual space. For example, you know, it's 16 feet currently for the current dwellings, but you can't build a second story on a 16-foot building. You can build maybe a loft, but that's it. And, you know, if you thought about what kind of, you know, you can compress the footprint a little bit, quite a bit more. If you can just put that second story in there, you can get a lot more floor space in there and for people to live in. And I think that's probably a really, really important thing. You know, I've thought about, well, what kind of minimum space I could live in, or, you know, 400 square feet, 800 square, you know, that's a big unit. Okay. But, you know, if you can make that footprint smaller, then it helps, you can put more trees. Also, I've noticed that there are a lot of structures where people have added additions to their houses, and they're two-story additions, but they haven't put in, you know, I believe if you look at the code, they're required to put in some type of landscape screening to come up there, but that's not been done. I still see these houses sticking out like sore thumbs 10 years later, okay, and it hasn't been done. So you know, maybe you need to think more clearly about, I guess they're in the code, but they're not being enforced. The other issue is you know, if you have building height, okay, we're talking about the 16 feet going to 20 or 22 feet. The biggest visual impact is if they put it blocking your sunlight, okay. So for example, if you put solar panels there, or your backyard orchardist or something like that, you know, and people put it 4 feet from the fence, that's a lot of that's a big shadow on your property. And maybe you know, there might be something to move people back a little further from the wall, and get a little more height, or that. Or for example, if it's positioned you know, north south, if it's positioned, if the building structure is like this versus, you know, like this, so those can be things that have a really big impact, I think, as a neighbor, you know, or would have a big impact, you know, on me, not only visually, but also, you know, how my lifestyle is. I think I hit the main points. Oh,
yeah, we'll just keep, I know you're on a creative flow right now, but as you come up with more, get us the information, get the information to us, because what we're looking for is the next few weeks, getting as many ideas on the radar screen as we possibly can.
Yeah.
The town council may not be able to address them all at the beginning, but the fact they're on the radar screen, and then there's more ordinance layers coming after the 31st.
Yeah.
So just
yeah,
do that.
I don't know how many will be able to do that. As for the heritage tree ordinance, trees grow really fast here. You know, you'd be surprised. I had a privet hedge 25 years ago. There was nothing there. There's a huge, you know, 40-foot oak tree there now.
Right.
You know, that might be considered a heritage tree at some point here time. And so what happens is people want to cut down these trees because maybe it's not going to happen now that there's the 4-foot exclusion. They want to cut down the trees because they will turn into heritage trees and things like that. And so I have to worry a little bit about what my neighbor does also.
Right.
For example, if this is an SB9 unit, I have a string of oak trees that are right close to the property line, and I have to worry about what's going to happen when he puts his next unit in there. And so those, you know, how does it impact my trees and what's going on there? Let's see.
I need you to wrap it up,
Okay.
but I don't want you to stop. All right. So I just wanted to change the format of how your input comes to us.
Okay. I think that's about all I had to say.
All right. Good. Thank you. Thanks for coming back on this item. Yeah. Anyone else ready to talk? Go ahead. We got another person in the room. Also, is there anybody online? All right, there are people.
Yes, we did have a speaker who's written a statement. I believe he's also on the call.
All right,
So
good.
he
So
might be
let-
going next.
I'll go there after this. So go ahead. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm John Daisy King with, an architect with Pacific Peninsula Architecture here in Menlo Park.
Mhm.
Resident of Atherton, been practicing for over 35 years in the area, done a lot of homes. And I've read I was the author of the email with all the little corrections. and so on.
Okay,
That was
okay.
really meant for staff, but it's fine to be a public comment.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say, it's a very minor about having read through the ordinance, is on the entrances for ADUs. There's a difference between attached and detached ADUs. I think the requirements for a detached ADU are fine, but the ones for attached, I think it's a little too restrictive and may not be, it requires an attached ADU to have its entrance facing a side yard or a rear yard where feasible. And I think in a lot of cases, well, flag lots for one, it really doesn't matter which side you put the entrance on. I would rather leave it to the architect or the homeowner and designing the building to make that decision. But on other lots, I think just restricting it, saying, rather than saying where it should be, just saying it should not face the front property line.
Okay.
And then let the conditions and the context of the lot dictate where's the best, whether side, which side or the rear.
Good.
So that's my only comment. I'm happy to, assist staff or anything else with my experience in terms of providing any thoughts and opinions on things.
So the only thing I'd say about that wording, I like the concept. I think we might want to work on the wording a little bit because technically on a flag lot, there is a side that faces the front property line, legally, it's like because of the address of the street.
Right.
So by adding that to it, it actually would restrict somebody from doing it in a totally logical place on a flag lot. Right.
Well,
Yeah, but I get your point. I get.
say flag
yeah.
lots, there's no
Yeah,
requirements, and
right.
all others, it shall not face the front.
Right,
property.
yeah, that makes sense. I like that revision better. Good.
Yeah,
Anything else?
I had a question. Do the
Go ahead.
ADU lots or the ADU units, they get a separate address? Or is it the address of the primary owner?
Hey, hold on, so this is not a question of the speaker, so.
No.
Then let me wait until it comes back.
Okay,
Hold
sure.
that question until we come back to the.
Okay.
Commission.
No problem. Thank you.
Anything else?
No,
All
that's
right.
it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to speak on this item?
Yes.
I got a person online.
Yes, we have a person online with a statement in chat. I believe he raised his hand visually, and if he
Okay,
could read his statement and speak.
who is it?
Ka-
Oh, I see it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see, and I can see you, which is a breakthrough for many of the people who have been here tonight. So go ahead.
My name is Lee Kenna. I live at 162 Fair Oaks Lane, 300 yards from where you guys are sitting. I've been working on an expansion of our home to include taking over the garage for about 5 years. And in that process, we have considered building what's now called an ADU, taking over our current pool house and adding kitchen, bathroom, et cetera. But in doing the house remodel, we're also talking about adding 2 bedrooms in the garage. So to put the garage and the ADU together is the core plan. And yet today, there are several restrictions related to the set aside from the nearest street for the ADU versus a detached garage, which we're talking about. Call it a barn, if you will. Doesn't have to have cars in it, but it makes sense to me for access and other reasons if the area which we could call a 2-car garage moves from its current location closer to the property line. So we can then put in the current pool house next to the house, an ADU. And the two, for a number of reasons, save space if they're attached. But there are separate restrictions today for the set aside from an ADU, which is very liberal in its access to the side yard or the side, in this case, the road. And the garage, which has to be more feet away. If they were to be attached, it almost forces the design to put the ADU next to the road and the garage next to the house, and then figure out how to access all that. To me, a variance from the current interpretation to allow a detached ADU to be attached to a garage, in which case the garage could access the same set-aside difference from the nearby road as the ADU has, or some such. So that to have a separate building with both facilities together makes more sense architecturally and in a number of ways. And we're not talking at the moment about going up 40 feet, but rather expanding within the current property line, building on an existing, call it a pool house, but something that could be easily expanded to an ADU with the garage next to the side street, which for us is Virginia Lane. I've spoken to the town planner. Mr. Kwan was very helpful. And at the current interpretation of the rules, we can't do that. So my suggestion is that we do further discussion to allow the garage to be accessing the ADU set-asides on the side lot and the ADU closer to the house, which would be convenient for all sorts of reasons and access, et cetera. I don't know what the rules are. I'm talking about, I suggest a change or a variance or a relaxation of the current rule to allow that. I'm happy to meet with anybody to facilitate it, but that's my suggestion tonight. Hopefully it can get into record.
Thank you. It is in the record. Sorry,
If I may clarify, so detached ADUs have a height limit of 16 feet,
Yeah.
but detached accessory structures have a height limit of 15 feet. And so if the applicant wanted to have a 16-foot ADU and in a detached accessory building and have the same roof, that they wouldn't be able to have the same roof line necessarily.
At least the way the condition is now.
Mhm. That's the way the ordinance is written now.
Yeah, which also is something that would be looking at. All right, that's a good point. And are you on a 1/3 acre or what size lot are you on?
You have a 1.2 acre lot with what now is a 3-bedroom house on it. And we're talking about taking over the garage to move 2 bedrooms in there and using up some of the interior space to expand, et cetera. But our hope is to do this within the next year. And we've got architects who are anxiously waiting to see what the rules will be.
All right, great. Well, these are good points. Thank you for waiting for to.
Is there a way to follow up? How can we know the next step?
The next step's going to happen and the town council on the 31st. There will be a lot of input between now and then, but first of all, the first next step is on the 31st, where the basic framework for the housing plan and the ADUs pulled into it. Then after that, there'll be a number of different additions of ordinances in line with that. So Sung, did you have something on that too?
Yes, as this is just a study session, listening session.
Right.
The ADU ordinance will come back to the planning commission for recommendation for adoption to the council. We haven't set a date for that at this time.
But some parts of the ADU plan could happen as part of the housing.
So as part of the housing element, there would be implementation measures and policies to define, like, potentially it could be like, this is when it would happen, or these are the types of things that could be in the ADU ordinance.
Okay.
So I haven't been tracking that, but I will look into that after we get these comments from the commission and the public.
Right, good. And then I lost my view of the thing dropped because my battery ran out of my iPad. So that I know that we're at our limit of the meeting. I'd say go ahead and check in with the planning staff as this process goes along. We are at the beginning of the change, and and no doubt as we get more feedback and more information, there'll be ongoing changes. What we want to do now, and the first step is on the 31st, get a plan. We had a housing element plan that is accepted by the state, so we can go on with whatever we're going to do after that. If we don't get accepted by the state, then as I put in a memo to myself earlier, buckle up. Because it'll be a wild ride. we don't get the acceptance. All right, is there anyone else here to speak on this item?
So in all likelihood, we're talking about late February, we may have more clarification from all this process.
More like March, probably. It could be late February, but probably more like March, I'd say, because, go ahead, so.
You're correct, Charlene. We don't have an exact date yet, so it kind of just depends.
Yeah, I would say that February would be very optimistic based on the fact that we'll still be sorting out what the decision was on the 31st. And we'll be working in this zone of time when the state hasn't had a chance to review our housing element plan. So anything that we do in that time would be subject to them rejecting or accepting what we have. So chances are there's going to be this stall that with a framework for the town plan being in place as the operating rules and all waiting for the feedback from the state. If the state were to say, no, you've got to make everything R50, or else you're not going to comply, then we go through a big change. So yeah, they would say R20, but they wouldn't say R50. But in my head, I'm thinking R50. You know, so the idea being that this is the beginning of the change process for the entire structure of planning for the town. The first step is to get a plan in place, so we have something going out beyond the 31st. The next step is to get the state to approve it, and then during that time, we're going to start working on the outline of implementation of ordinances that will comply with the way we want to have happen. And we can't tell you right now how fast it's going to be, but it won't be February. It'll probably be March, April, in that time frame. There is a possibility to come forward with an exception and have that before the planning commission, and then that could be something that could be considered by the planning commission in lieu of the various approaches you've talked about. That would be one way to handle it.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Anyone else ready to speak? Anyone online? I lost my view.
I don't see any hands raised. If someone would like to speak, you could use the reactions button and use raise hand feature.
Or a
But I don't
wave.
see any now.
Or wave. Okay.
Or wait, yep.
Yeah. Then I'll go ahead and close the public section and bring it back forward. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm going to explain that. I'm going to explain that. All right. So I'm going to bring it back for discussion and maybe some potential direction from the planning commission for staff to take to the town council. Harry, you got something?
No comments.
All right. Randy?
Nope, I'm good.
Gabby, you had something?
I do have a comment. So with regard to the ADUs, I know this is kind of a complicated area of law, but I think we should also keep in mind that homeowners, we all have property insurance and so forth. That should probably be weighed in some manner so that our insurance companies, if we do want to elect to do an ADU on our property in Atherton, that's recognized in a proper manner, because as we all know, we do have property insurance to protect our dwellings on our property. So, this seems like it's a little bit no man's land. And, I hope that we still remind property owners that that has to be taken into consideration, because they may have to pay more insurance to have more square footage on their property. I don't know. So I don't know how other people feel about that, but there is actually, some liability if you have, like for example, the other gentleman was talking about having people loud noises, possibly, they can burn down the place, who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are factors there, including people tripping in and out as they come in and out of the ADU.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Those
I'm just thinking of it from a legal perspective as an attorney. Yeah, exactly. There's trip and fall liabilities, people leaving their stoves on, burning down the ADU. all of that's factored into the insurance issue. And obviously with the state of California, with everything we've encountered with storms and fires, you know, everything's very sensitive. And we all, I'm sure all of us know, we do pay very high insurance in payments for a dwelling in Atherton. So that's where I'm coming from on that.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
All right, the only thing I'll say is that from a directional standpoint, one, I want to make sure that the town council gets all the feedback that we've gotten tonight, and so the issues are there. The other thing that I would encourage to come up with is incentives for better planning built into it. So the key thing there, what can people get 50 square feet more if they retain the 10-foot setback? And the number of things that I'm thinking about is since we can't stop people from doing things, can we incentivize smart planning, which would be a breakthrough technology, but given this law, everything from hitting the protecting the heritage. I mean, right now, as I see it, if you want to get rid of a heritage tree, put in an ADU, because I get to put it wherever I want, and that justifies a heritage tree being knocked down. So I think we need to consciously think about incentives to create the shape of the use of property that we consider to be better. The idea about the attachment to the garage where it makes sense seems to be something to also consider, which might modify height. If you propose an ADU and attach it to a garage, do you get the benefit of the height? And my answer would be maybe, but also how does that affect setback? And some of the key things that are wrong with this direction that we're being told to go is the issue around parking. We can't require a parking standard other than 1 car per unit. Which if you drive down to LA where my kids live, is why the streets are all filled with cars, because everybody converted their garage. They park, the landowner parks in front of the garage, and all the tenants park on the street. We don't have streets for that. Then it'll create traffic problems. It'll create dangerous traffic flow issues, as well as runoff issues. So all those things I think need to be sort of directed towards how do we incentivize better use. And my first idea would be around some kind of square footage bonus for creating the standard that we have right now. The second would be to incentivize ADU buildup and registration during the first year of this plan. And that would be, first of all, to show that Atherton really can do ADUs on a faster rate than the state projects. And that would be waive the fee for any ADU, either registered or built during the first year. That provides some couple of things. First of all, it provides a limit to how long the town is exposed for less fee. It also incentivizes that first year, and it could be 1.5 years, to get people acting now, to put it on the radar screen that we actually have taken action that actually has effect, because that first 2-year period is very critical to the town. If we don't hit the 2-year window, the state comes in here and says, well, you guys you're not on track to deliver this. So incentivizing that change is important. Also, as I mentioned the other night, making sure that that SB 9 lot splits are sped up, so that we again hit our number. That first 2-year sprint start is very critical to the future of this town from a standpoint of maintaining the standard of ambiance and sort of experience of living here that we want.
Great.
Chair Lane, can I ask for a little bit of clarification on your comment regarding fee incentives? Are you referring to the application fee for ADUs, any inclusionary fee that might get adopted, all fees? What's the scope that you're talking about waiving for the first year or two?
I would say during the first year or two, the most that we could afford. because we believed or it was believed in the first plan that ADUs would be enough. We've got to demonstrate that during the first 2 years. And so anything that would incentivize that, including, I'm sure there are people that are not registering their ADUs as ADUs because they don't want to be on the radar screen. Well, now you get free approval, so be on the radar screen. And also, obviously taking away the limitation on length of time, a stay and things like that, that are all part of those types of things.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just,
Yeah. There's a building fee
yeah, so
also.
there, just for clarification, there are two types of fees. One is the planning review fee, which is a zoning clearance
Right.
fee. And then there's the building permit, plan check and inspection.
Right.
fees.
And I would say, that'll be up to the town council to consider either or both. And I would say the more during that first year, the better. On ADUs.
Yeah. And I think that lady's comment about making the ADUs maybe more like studio apartments, so there doesn't have to necessarily be a wall between the bedroom, the kitchen, the bathroom, what have you. I mean, that's a possible consideration as well.
Yep.
Maybe it's not most ideal, but that might help people reduce the construction costs on things.
Right. In Los Angeles, they have these things they call bachelor or bachelorette
Yeah.
settings. And there's basically a kitchen that's a strip of a small refrigerator, a small stove, a sink, and
Yeah.
cabinets. And it's just one little strip, and they buy the unit and they put it in the wall. And they
Yeah.
so I think that from my standpoint, that would be an acceptable minimum. It might not make it as desirable to be used by people, but it would be a minimum that I would think it would be okay.
Yeah. And
it's
then
been tested.
you have to add the wardrobe too. I think the closet, you have to have a small closet, so to consider it a bedroom. Got it. Yeah.
All right.
Yes, that makes sense. Just for clarification, in terms of that strip kitchen, are you thinking having a full stove with oven, a sink, refrigerator is definitely going to be needed?
I'll leave that. What I would like to do on that is get some information on the places that have done it. I mean, whether a convection oven and a stove. I'm not sure the hot plate idea works for me from a fire safety standpoint, but there are situations out there that we can investigate that people have done these types of things. As a matter of fact, at one point, my daughter was looking to move into one, so I actually toured one. I went, oh, this is an interesting thing. Airline pilots use them in LA. So I think there's some benchmarking, looking at things that we need to do to make their answer right. But I think that on that part of things, we got time. Right now, we need to make sure that we get a very basic framework.
Mhm. So when staff brings back a revised ordinance for the Plan Commission to consider, would you like some examples of what some of the other cities have done in terms of defining kitchens? Would that be helpful?
That would be great for me. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
me too.
Great, thank you.
All right, so that's all we have on D. Is there anybody else on the commission that wants to talk on this item?
Nope.
Yeah, we got enough on that. All right, then we'll go ahead with the staff report. I mean, any information from staff comment.
Staff comment beyond the AD ordinance.
Yes, yeah. Next item.
So just want to remind the commission that starting in March, that the public hearings will be in person. So I believe that the assistant city manager, city clerk had sent out a memo on that earlier today.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, I can hardly wait. Perry and I are sitting there alone all the time. All right. All right, then the other, I just miss people's smiling faces. What, you had something else?
Rhoda has a request if she can show.
I just wanted to share screen and show how you can reach to the attachments on the agenda so you can navigate. Can I?
Yeah, if you can do it quickly.
Quickly, so this is if you
You
can
have to
see
share
the
your screen. Yeah, you go.
you get to Atherton website and you get to agenda and minutes. It lands on all the agendas of the town itself. We're at Planning Commission regular meeting, you hit HTML agenda. And this is everything we spoke about today, including the roll call, public comments, approval. That's the first, second, third. I'm going to use ADU ordinance as an example. You get to view item details, or you can download a PDF. It gives you everything with the attachments. I hit download now and also see view items. When you get to view items, you get to all of it and you have to scroll down, get to item attachments. So what we showed you was all, this is the staff report. You can download or you can view. These are your buttons and you can go to track changes. So this is typically PC staff report is what we give, and everything is labeled in order. And while this is the way to navigate it online. And so what we showed you was an online version. When I said, when you go back to the ADU, when you see download PDF, you get to something called a mini packet. So can you see this 42 pages of the ADU ordinance that includes the staff report and all the attachments as one PDF for everybody to navigate.
All right,
So
so,
this is a new system that all our meetings are being hosted online, and it's easy for us to manage, easy for city clerk. to
yeah,
manage.
it's easy to manage from the back end. It's not as easy as it used to be from the front end.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's why I'm gonna keep on working with staff on getting it easier, because it's just not as anytime you have to click 6 times to get to what you want is too many. So I'm still working with staff on not this staff, but the town staff on better ways to make this system available to people, because my part of the communication flow for me is to make sure people actually can be communicated to and can interact with it. This one's hard. Yeah.
I also had a hard time logging in. I logged in at 5:15, leaving my office, and then I wasn't able to log in. I was late. Is there a way that once you log in, because I was waiting for a meeting, to start,
No,
does it clock out or something?
Zoom doesn't, the Zoom clocks out, not them.
Oh,
So
okay,
you were on the screen here, but you were logged out on Zoom. So it's.
got it. Okay,
that-
that's
that
on my
happens
end.
That happens on every meeting I go to.
Okay,
All right.
sorry about that.
All right. Next item is any commissioner comments or anything? The only thing
I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say you ran a great meeting again tonight, but you really need to get back to the hour max. I think we really need to get back to that. You're slipping on it, man. I know Perry's sitting there right next.
Well,
I saw him nodding off a couple times, and I was like, Perry, I don't know what to tell you. These things used to be 55 minutes max.
Yeah.
Eric was the man.
Yeah, well, the thing about that is that let me choose the items on the agenda next time. All right.
Oh, come on.
All right, the next thing I'll say, one of the items I'm going to be bringing up is runoff and drainage in town,
Great.
because I've had a
Love
couple of things, got a couple of things that happened recently, both in my block and also in my tour around town, that make me think that if you're going to go for higher density, we're going to have to come out of the dark ages in terms of the drainage situation on the side of streets. But
I
I've got some things coming on that.
Beautiful. I think that's such a great topic. Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, with that, I need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Boy, I didn't know you were still awake for that. All right, have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Narcisse,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Conce,
Yes.
Commissioner Lerner,
Yes.
Chair Lane.
Oh, let me think. Yes.
It's
All right.
4-1,
Motion
bro.
passes the meeting.
Vote no.
All right, we'll talk to you next time. All right, adjourn
Okay.
the meeting. Thank
Good
you.
meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.